Hello, wonderful people. Sean Tucker here, coach, trainer, and the man behind the mic in the brand new podcast, How Are You Really Mum? With the fresh male perspective, this is a place where we will unveil the layers and celebrate the woman behind motherhood. In How Are You Really Mum, we acknowledge the joys, the challenges, the growth, and the tears. I hope you enjoy the show.
And welcome back to the How Are You Really Mum podcast with me, Sean Tucker. And I'm so delighted to welcome Steph Gobraiel here from Sydney. And if you don't know Steph, she's actually an international bestseller, believe it or not. She's a meetup leader. She's a highly experienced business manager and the founder of S38 Business Management. As a former executive assistant to a high-level corporate general managers, she's got a wealth of experience and a whole bunch of business knowledge. As an OBM, Steph helps small business owners create effective habits to run their businesses more effectively and efficiently. Her sound advice streamlines business operations, and Steph specializes in helping her clients build impressive online profiles. With a passion for helping business owners build their businesses around their families, Steph helps overwhelmed entrepreneurs say goodbye to exhaustion and hello to a successful business. So Steph, awesome. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I light up when we're talking about, anything that we're doing, business, parenthood, all of that sort of thing. So thank you so much for having me.
I'm really delighted to have you here because you're a mum, you're a single mum.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yep.
Yes.
And you also, you were just saying you've got an award ceremony coming up. Like, that's pretty awesome. It sounds like you've been really able to maybe balance or blend being a mum and really being a successful business owner. Can you tell us more about that? How do you do it?
So it's a juggle. Like anything, I feel like work-life balance is a very outdated saying, Sean. So I always say it's a juggle, and you're not always going to have all the balls in the air, and that's okay. Sometimes one's got to fall, and that's the reality. When you're a parent, when you're a business owner, and you're trying to, just try and get through a lot, sort of thing. But the great thing as a business owner, it's on your schedule. It's not on someone else's schedule. So you've got to do what works for you. And that's the most important thing.
Yeah. And we were just speaking off air a little bit. You said one crucial thing, and I think it's really important to highlight here. Mm-hmm. One step at a time, one day at a time.
Absolutely. And, there will be things that will be thrown at you that can be so overwhelming. And the only thing you can do is just take it one day at a time. And that automatically sort of diffuses and sort of helps with the overwhelm, because it's human nature to think, oh my goodness, this is going to happen and this is going to happen. But if we could just remember to breathe and just take it one day at a time, I think, what do we need to get through today? What do we need to do to get through today? And just, it's those small wins that we need to hold on to and celebrate. Because at the end of the day, as a business owner, as I'm sure you know, Sean, no one is clapping for you. So we've got to clap for ourselves, right? We've got to celebrate. Like the awards night tomorrow night, I was very hesitant about going because I thought, it's a range of reasons. Mm-hmm. But then I thought, you know what? This is one night in the year where I get to celebrate. I get to get dolled up. I get to get dressed up. I get to have a 3-course meal without running after my daughter. I get entertainment. I get MC, and I get to speak to other adults. And that's it. And I thought to myself, I deserve that much. I have to do it for myself because I am also role modeling for my little girl who is watching me. So it's important for her to see that mummy is still going to make time to get dressed up, look beautiful, go to an awards night for business.
Yeah.
And, it's those things.
I find that so admirable because not only are you doing that for your daughter and she's seeing you really be the courageous you were once a little girl, right?
Yes.
Just like she is right now.
Yeah.
And sometimes, and not only sometimes, I'd say for all the mums out there, even women in general, like how many times have they been told you can't do that? Or you're definitely not able to do that because you're a woman or you're a mum, right? And this is heartbreaking to hear, but it's still, like you said, the work-life balance, it's outdated. And it sure is. You know, I was having a conversation with Mary Wiegand from the United States just a few weeks ago on another podcast. And she was saying she doesn't believe in work-life balance because she's the CEO of her company that she started and it boomed. Ironically, her company's name is Boon.
Okay.
That boom. And, you know, she was saying she's got 6 kids.
Wow.
Massive family. How do you operate that? And she's like, it's not about balance. It's about blending.
Yeah.
Because you need to have a team of support around you
Yep.
to really just go ahead and make it happen.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about what you just said. You're giving permission to all those other mums and, you know, women out there. You are deserving to have a really rich life, and whatever that means to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Sean. And you mentioned I'm an international bestseller. It's because I wrote 2 chapters. So I'm a 2 times international bestseller, but I wrote my journey coming into motherhood and starting my business. And it's not all rainbows, unicorns, and flowers. It was the complete opposite for me. But what I found, Sean, is no one talks about it. No one talks about how hard it is, how, like children, business doesn't come with a manual. Like no one talks about this stuff, like the mother's guilt. For me, it felt like knives in my ears. Like that's to what degree mother's guilt felt for me. And I think I was just sharing my story because I wanted other mums to know that, at the end of the day, if you're struggling, it's okay because we are all, fighting some sort of battle behind closed doors. And I think there's less of that, coming through in today's society with, showing authenticity. But I think it's so important to know that, it's okay. We are all going through something and it will pass. Like it's not going to be something that might pass straight away, but that's all we can do. And it comes back to, one day at a time. And you mentioned, Sean, having a support system around you. Yes, that's so important. I'm in the process of building that for myself. And, people say, oh, you can't outsource this. The same way you outsource in business, you can outsource in your family as well. So if you don't have family around you, maybe it is that you're getting someone to help you with either the cleaning or, getting something like dinner ladies that will give you a break from having to cook all the time because, single parents or mums are always on the go, always thinking about what's got to happen next. It's very rare that you get that time where you just get to stop and hear yourself think. So it's not a bad thing if you do that. And sometimes I get people that look at me and are like, oh, you got this or you got that. Yeah, I got this and I got that because it's going to help me, and my family, and that's all I care about at the end of the day. If I can outsource it, it's going to be one less thing that I have to worry about because at the end of the day, Sean, we're one person. And on top of that, we have to throw in self-care, right?
Absolutely.
So my goodness, they're saying you can't pour from an empty cup. Yeah, that's all good and great. But when everything is on you, it's not going to be easy. However, it is important because my health suffered in the first 2 to 3 years of my daughter's life because all I did was put my daughter first. And I come from a background where you put your family first. Right?
Of course.
So that was drummed into me. But then things shifted as my health started to deteriorate. And, there were obvious things that were happening to me that I was like, oh my God, if I don't look after myself, how am I going to look after my child?
Yeah. And that realization would have really made you pause for a moment or just stop. Be like, what actually is important in my life?
And that belief system of putting family first, it's still there. There's obviously an element of it there,
Yeah.
but it's also made me go, right, I need to be able to look after myself so I can look after my daughter and so I can show up for my clients and, show up for anyone that is looking to me as well, because it shows.
Yeah.
Sean, if you're exhausted and you're run down and all that sort of thing and you're talking to clients, it's going to show no matter how good you try to hide it.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
you don't want to show your kids that that's normal as well. So
Yeah. And I think what you've done is if it's okay to share, I mean, you've just broadened the lens instead of really just focusing really crystal clear focus on, well, I'm the provider, I'm the caretaker, I'm a single parent. I am the life of this child, right? Like this child is 100% dependent on how you manage yourself and her. But if you
Correct.
can't manage yourself, you're only going to manage her as good as you can manage yourself. And if
Correct.
there's nothing left to really give her, because the element of you can't pour from an empty cup is partially true, but mums somehow find a way to do that. I've recognized, except when it comes to themselves.
Coffee.
Yeah.
Get the adrenaline going, you're good to go.
Yeah. Yep. Because you'll find it somewhere in you. The human spirit is relentless. Like it won't give up. But the human body and the human mind will. It will give up.
And that's very true, and I thought I could do it all when I became a mum, Sean. I had this very naive, belief that I can be a mum, I can be a business owner, I can be a wife, I can be, looking after the household, I can be doing all of these really important things, where the reality was, you can't do it all on your own, right?
Yeah.
And that was a very profound realization for me, because again, you don't know what to expect from motherhood. Whatever, your child is like a lottery ticket. Every child is different. However, you don't know what you're going to get, sort of thing. And it's so important. And you don't want to show your child that you're exhausted because you're trying to put family first, and because they're going to think that's normal. Again, they're watching us. They're always watching us, and they're soaking things in like a sponge.
Yeah.
And again, trying to be that good role model for them. We forget sometimes, but they do watch. Like the other night, I was making dinner and I put some music on because I know music always picks me up, Sean. And I started dancing. I was making dinner and my daughter was in the living room and she can see me. And I turned around and I spotted her looking at me, just quietly sitting there looking at me, Sean. And I said to her, "Are you okay, Mum?" And she goes, yeah, I'm all right. That was it. I said, "Do you want to come dance with me?" She's like, "No, I'm all right." I'm like, "Okay." And then I just kept going with what I was doing. But it's these little secret moments where they're watching you and you're not always noticing. And they're just realizing, this is who my role model is, So,
Yeah. It's interesting. And there's something I wanted to say earlier, and it's what I really admire about you is you're able to stand in the light, because there's a quote. Can't remember where the quote comes from. The book is just on the top of my lips, but I can't get it out. But the quote goes something like this, and it's that the darkness is not what we fear the most. It's our light that actually is what we fear the most. And because if we stand in our light, all eyes are on us.
Correct. Yeah.
But unconsciously, at a level, what will happen is you give other people permission to do the same. So when you just go ahead and just be in the light, and you just turn on the light and you be yourself, you be your full authentic self, in whatever that means to you. You drop the roles, right? So you're not the mum, you're not the business owner, you're just yourself.
Steph. Yeah.
You're just having a little dance, right?
Yeah.
In the kitchen, enjoying yourself.
Exactly.
What that does is it gives permission for other people to be invited to do the same, right? And that's the beauty of what you're doing there. Because, kids are always watching. They're always soaking up the environment. The most important thing, I think, what you've probably come to realize is it's not money. It's not time is an aspect to it. But once it comes back down to priorities. once you realize what's the most important thing in your life, and once you really understand what that is fully embodied in you, everything else falls into place. Time is one aspect that will fall into place when you realize what is most important to you.
Absolutely. And Sean, can I just add to that? Like family is one of my biggest values in business and in my personal life, because in the
Yeah.
corporate world, my baby or my business was my career.
Mhm.
And I think when I had my daughter, there was this massive shift in my world. My
Yeah.
world spun on its axis, because even when I was pregnant, I'm like, I'm coming back to work. I'll be, putting baby in childcare, and I'll be back, sort of thing. But when I, became a mum, it's like this completely new chapter, complete big transition of who you are as a person as well.
Yeah.
And that's why I tell clients now, if this doesn't work for you, that I have to work my hours around my young daughter, then that's fine. I can refer you to someone else to work with. But that
Yeah.
took time to build as well. There's a confidence, there's, wanting to make sure that you're aligned as well on values, which is so
Yep.
important with clients and people in your life in general, not just, on the business side of things. And I find that's, yeah, it's so important, because then you get to be there. Like I was telling you earlier, Sean, my daughter had her first book week parade at school, and I was able to be there for it. And,
Yeah.
you go through so many firsts with your children, and you want to be there for them. You want to experience them. You want to experience your children. Otherwise, why are we doing this sort of thing,
Spot on. And the flexibility, right? It doesn't just take a day to build what you have right now. It doesn't even take a week or a year. It's that constant almost unveiling of who you really are.
Correct.
Because once you realize who you really are and what's most important, the other things will fall into place, but it will take time.
Mhm.
It will take time because not everyone is caught up to where you are.
Correct. And
You're dealing with people.
that's right. And I think it's a great opportunity, Sean, to really, because when you're a mom, it's so easy to lose yourself, being
Yeah.
Mariam's mom. That's what I hear half the time, at school. That's Mariam's mom. That's Mariam's mom. And that's fine.
Mhm.
But I think what's also really important is to remember who you are, or this, next version of you. I call it 2.0.
Yep.
Version 2.0 of Steph, because it's a very different phase of my life. And, what do I want? I'm starting to ask myself again, who am I? What do I want to do as well? What do I want to become? But this personal development is so important, because, it means that we're owning our stories, and it means that we're empowering ourselves, especially as women, to be
Yeah.
proud that, yes, for example, my daughter slept 2 years on my chest because she's high sensory and it's just who she is, right? It's these things that we have to own as women. We shouldn't be, scared of it. We shouldn't be trying to hide it. We shouldn't be shy of it. We need to just, embrace it, because, as you said, when we embrace it, we step into a light. And
Yeah.
that's when people see who you really are.
100%. It's that emotional quality of who we are,
Mhm.
right? Because we constantly have this emotion and thought happening all the time, right? And thought is in our logic mind.
Correct.
Emotion is in our mind of the body. It's what we feel. And when you're living out your truth, which is getting back to who you really are, once you peel away all those layers, because your emotions are not defining who you are right now.
Mhm.
It's merely the experience to find out who you really are. And you have to be courageous enough to lean into them.
Mhm.
And that takes a lot of guts, a lot of courage, and you're really stepping into the darkness, because what happens when you do that, say, for example, you're just really, really fearful of, I don't know, judgment and how people judge you. Because, you're a single mom, like you said, you had your baby on your chest, she's high sensory.
Mhm.
So she only really felt comfortable when she was on your chest. It's how she probably managed to get where she is right now. But looking from the outside in, how can you be doing that? Like,
Oh,
no,
the judgment. I was like,
she's
wow.
got to she's got to sleep in the cot on her own. What are you
Yeah.
doing?
I was
Right?
told, oh, she'll never sleep on her own in her life. Like,
Yeah.
seriously, And, it scares you as a first-time parent as well, Sean. It freaks
Yeah.
you out because it's like, oh my God, am I doing something wrong? You start questioning yourself as well in the process. And, at one point, I even got someone that, the rock to sleep to try, help me because I just this, like, opinions and everything else. It kept coming at me. And
Yeah.
my daughter, after a week, Sean, she stopped smiling at me when she'd wake up. So at that point in time, when she woke up and she wasn't smiling at me, I said, F the world.
Mhm.
She sleeps, she eats, and she poops fine. So I thought, if anyone asks, it was at that point that I said, right, no one needs to know what's going on. She eats, she
Yeah.
sleeps, and that's it. And then after that, when I put her back on my chest, she started smiling again. So do you know what I mean? Like, people don't know, your situation. They don't know your child like you know your child, and that's
Yeah.
okay. That is okay. We don't say it enough, Sean.
Yeah.
Sorry, I
And
get
it's
passionate when
okay.
we talk about this stuff.
So do I. I get passionate hearing it because I'm a new dad. My baby's 6 months old now, right? And I see it. I see what my wife goes through. Yeah, when the baby's crying, mother always knows. There's a good reason why that is a quote,
Yes.
right? Mother always
Yes.
knows best.
Hmm.
I left out that part, but mother really always knows. And what I mean by that is there's an element that kid, usually biological mum is what I'm talking about, but I'm sure it also happens where it's not a biological mum, right? You birthed that child. That child was literally part of you for 9 months or thereabout.
Yeah.
Right? Literally was part of you, part of your physiology.
Correct.
So there's an inbuilt mechanism that's communicating to you at some level, whether it's, physiologically, mentally, or maybe energetically.
Hmm. Hmm.
These systems are what we have to learn to tune into because those thoughts are not your intuition. The more you kind of get deeper and deeper and just let the layers unveil themselves, the more you're able to hear the truth. Because yes, it'll act as a thought. It will come through maybe as a thought or a feeling. But your intuition is your wisdom. It's your truth. It's not the same as anyone else's.
Correct. And can I add, Sean, that one of the biggest things I've learned is to trust my instincts as a mother.
Yeah.
Sometimes random things would pop into my head and I'd be like, why is that popping into my head? And when it happens and comes to fruition, I'd be like, that's the reason why that popped into my head. So
Sometimes it just doesn't make sense.
exactly. But we need to listen to it, right? We need, as mums, we need to listen to it. Even if you think it's wrong, whatever you think, just trust your judgment. Because as you said, no one knows the child like the mum does. And only because it came from the mum, right?
Yeah.
And that's something I'm still working on. I'm learning to just listen to it and just go with it. So I have to sometimes tell myself instead, because the first thing we want to do is question it, right? That is our human nature. But I keep telling myself, just go with it, and it will, it will show itself. Whatever it means or whatever reasoning it is, that will happen. But right now, I'm getting this feeling for a reason, and I need to listen to that. So I still have to tell myself, listen to your own instincts, Steph, because it's happening for a reason. You might not know why that reason is right this moment in time, but just listen to it.
Yeah. And it won't always get you to the point of exactly where you need to be, right? Because sometimes your body or your mind is kind of inbuilt with this system that you're being led on a path.
Exactly. It's a
right? You're
step in the
being led,
process, right?
step in the process. Exactly. So
Mhm.
you might be led to, oh, we went this way and it didn't work out. But that's just because you brought back in the analytical mind. You
Correct.
just started really analyzing, well, where did I go wrong? What happened? What can I do better? And then you start listening outside again.
Yeah.
You start listening to what other people are telling you. You start trusting everything outside of you, which is getting away from your instincts, your intuition again,
Correct.
your inner wisdom,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Because our bodies are fine-tuned machines.
Mhm.
Our minds are also fine-tuned machines.
Mhm. So I kind of feel, Sean, like the logic part of our brain always wants to kick into drive, even when you get an instinct and go, what are you doing? Or, you know what I mean? That questioning comes up and it's like, that's not logical. Why are you going to do that? And that's what
Mm.
tends to tip the scales.
Yeah,
But you've kind of got to stop it and you've got to be aware of it, because if you're not aware of it, you won't stop it.
exactly.
And
Yeah,
that's the thing, right? You've got to kind of go, okay, this is just what needs to happen for this moment and I need to listen to it,
yep,
and it's on a very different level when you become a mum, right? Your instincts kick in a very it's like they're on steroids, right?
yep. Huh.
And I know that's a
I
strange
can
way
say
to
I
describe
observed
it.
that.
Yeah, right? Right?
Yes.
But that's the reality of it. And I think, like,
Yeah.
we don't even mention that enough, that, as a mum, we need to listen to our instincts, because nobody knows better than, the mum of a child, regardless of age, regardless of, what's happening. If her instinct is to tell her to do something, she needs to listen to that instinct. I didn't listen to my instinct, Sean, and, I did what everyone else wanted. And
Mhm.
then I saw what happened when I didn't listen to my instincts, and it broke my heart. And I thought, how
Yeah.
could I have done that to my own child? But that's because I've never experienced this before. I never thought I'd have a child that wouldn't sleep, you know, anywhere but on me, sort of thing. Like, you don't know what you're going to get with children,
Yeah.
That's the thing, it's almost like a lottery ticket. You don't know what you're going to get. Um, so it's so important to, really relay that message to any mum out there. Listen to your instincts and just go with it, because I've never listened to my instincts and it's led me wrong as well, Sean.
Mhm. Yep.
Would you
Yeah, it's
agree?
100%. I mean, it's so easy to trust. Even what the doctors, what the people are saying, people who have gone on the same path, like their instincts are coming from within. Right?
Mhm.
Your body, your system
Mhm.
is however many years old. Not in terms of your body right now, but from an evolutionary standpoint.
Mhm.
Like, for example, your nose that you have right here on your nose, your great, 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 great grandmother had the same nose, right? There's a form of memory and genetic memory that's come through, and you are the expression of that. So of all the, people, all of the, I guess, mums and dads that have come before you, there's an inbuilt memory to that within us, from a mum standpoint, from a dad standpoint too.
Mhm.
And yes, sometimes they need updating, right? From a software point of view, not a hardware point of view, because our bodies are primed to know what to do. The only problem is our minds are still clinging on to what society's telling us. And society is the thing that needs updating,
Correct.
not our hardware.
Correct. Correct. And we don't talk about so many things, enough when it comes to, childbirth or pregnancy or, babies, or any of that.
Absolutely.
We don't talk about it enough, Sean. Like, like my pregnancy, I was nauseous all the way through, all the way through.
Mm.
And the only time I wouldn't feel nauseous is when I was asleep, and no one everyone says, oh, you're only nauseous in the first trimester. BS, right? Like, BS. Because I was just like, every time I heard that, I'd just look at someone like, stop talking to me. Stop talking to me. Because, again, all our experiences are different. And,
Yeah.
we don't talk about the reality of it. And that's the reality of it. We might feel nauseous here, or, that horrible diabetic drink. I almost passed out from it because I didn't have food in my system. And it was the most horrible thing that you have to do, as a pregnant woman.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much we don't talk about. and we always say, like, even to the, like, I had an emergency C-section, right? I didn't have a natural birth, and that was daunting on me because no one said, anything can go wrong in the process of childbirth. My OB said, you're healthy, you should have a normal, you've had a normal pregnancy, so you should have a normal birth, you should be all right. My cord was wrapped around my daughter's shoulder. So when they tried to induce me, Sean, it was spiking her heart rate. So they had to get her out. Okay.
Yeah.
And no one tells you, like, the person that, puts the needle in your back, he had to go at it 3 times before he found the spot, for example. Like, it's horrible, but this is what we need to prep mums for, and I couldn't walk. At all because I was in so much pain after, the emergency C-section, like these important conversations we don't have, and then, it's classed as major surgery, and then you have to look at it after a baby at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? So,
good luck.
but that's the reality of it, right?
That is the reality.
That's the reality, and we don't say, we don't say enough that, have a backup bag in case you don't have a natural birth, or have these 10 things that you should have in case something else happens in, the birth of your child, sort of thing. And it's such a taboo topic, and I don't know why. We live in a very educated first world country where we should be talking about this stuff more.
Yeah, it is really taboo. I've noticed that in so many of women's health topics. Pregnancy is obviously one. Menopause and perimenopause is another one. And goodness, when I was looking down that rabbit hole, I was like, wow, I shouldn't say I feel for you ladies, but I was going to use that word because I'm never ever going to be a woman, right?
Yeah.
I'm not biologically made that way in this lifetime. And I'm never going to be a mum. But as an observer, as a son who cares about his mum, this is why I do what I do, because I see that there's very little support and very little awareness around the truth of what it is to experience these things. And when you're told medicine or drugs will fix you, like, no, please get me a new doctor. Yeah.
We need to move away from this mentality that medicine and, antibiotics is the first point of call. It shouldn't be. There are some doctors that are great that say try A, B, and C, and if that doesn't work, then maybe we'll have another conversation.
Yeah.
But our society needs to move away that, medication is the answer. It's not the answer half the time. They just need to take the time to really understand what's going on with the person before putting them on medication. And like, I'm seeing a lot more now about perimenopause and menopause and all that stuff, which is great, Sean, because it's been around, for centuries. So why are we just talking about it now? But there you go. But I'm glad, that society's moving forward on one aspect or one element of, a woman's body and that sort of thing. But still with the pregnancy and children and stuff, it still feels like it's really taboo at the moment. It's not.
Yeah. And the other thing is, the births that don't make it, right? Like, that is a very, very taboo topic.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I seriously can't imagine. But the strange thing, Sean, the funny thing, mums talk to each other about this stuff, but it's not in our society. Does that make sense? So mum to mum, we're like, it's a safe place. We can talk about this or whatever it might be. But and I ask the same question to every mum that I talk to about it. I'm like, well, why is this not more common knowledge in our society? Because clearly, a lot of mums are going through it. We're just not talking about it.
Yeah. It's like this motherhood, literally, like a motherhood of mothers.
And even though we live in the 21st century, it's so isolating. Yes, we have technology and stuff, but at least back in our parents' day, there was the neighbors that would come check on you, or there was, your family that was close by, or there were friends that would, check in on you. But in this day and age, my experience, Sean, it was very isolating, very isolating. And I'm like, how do we live in this technology age and yet being a newborn mum was so isolating.
You feel so alone, right?
You do.
And that's, I mean, I can't imagine. I'd love to hear your take on it and share some experience from where you are now. Because being a single mom, I mean, obviously, when you had the child, there might have been, the father figure there, but now, you are the single mom.
Mhm.
You're raising your child. You're running your business.
Mhm.
You're doing all of this, and you're able to share it with people that it's not about doing it perfect. It's not about just showing how good I am. It's showing what's possible. And I think that that message right there, that showing what's possible and that you don't have to do it alone, that you have the possibility to build your own support networks,
Mhm.
because there may not be a lot out there.
Mhm. That's very true. And one of my biggest lessons, Sean, and I actually put this in one of my books, is don't worry about society's expectation. As long as you're meeting your own expectation, that's all that matters at the end of the day, because society doesn't care. Nobody cares. No one cares if you have it all put together on the outside and you're falling apart on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
So you're better off having it the other way around. You have it put together at home on your own, what's the word I'm looking for? On your terms, and let society go, oh, that's strange the way she's doing it, and, whatever it might be. But as long
Yeah.
as it works for you, that's the most important thing. There's this stigma that we have to be a certain way. You have to be the mom, you have to be, the working woman, you have to have it all, and blah, 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 blah. Those women are falling apart on the inside and behind closed doors. And this is what we
Yeah.
don't talk about enough. We don't see what happens behind closed doors, because what happens behind closed doors could be a very different story to what's being, portrayed in public, as an example.
Well, what's ironic about that is many of those men who went down that same trap door, right,
Mm-hmm.
have actually, they're either on a really severe, having a mental health crisis, or they've actually suicided, right? And that's really the reality of when people think that they have to be a certain way, or they have to show themselves a certain way, even though they're not that.
Correct.
I mean, I've fallen victim to that.
Yeah, we all have, right?
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, we need to be in tune with what's going on as well, Sean. We need to have this awareness about us, because I learned that society doesn't care what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And when I do what works for me, I'm in a good place. I'm in a happy place. And I know what's best for me and my daughter. So I will do that. And now, whether people agree with it or not, that's none of their business. And this is the other thing. We care too much about what other people think, right? Why? If people don't agree, stop telling them. Stop talking to them about it. It's as simple as that. Tell them, yeah, everything's great. Thank you very much. And if people are going to judge you, do you really want to be around those people, Sean?
Yeah.
Right? You don't
And
want people questioning the way you parent, what you do, all of this sort of thing. They're not your people. People are going to support you. They're your people, regardless of what's going on. And this is such a common one, Sean. I see it all the time. There's either your kid having a tantrum in the shopping centre or somewhere in public, and you get two types of mums, okay, or two types of people. Let's expand this. You get people that look at you like, oh my God, what is your child doing? And then you get the other school where, I get it. You get the look of, I get it. I feel for you, but I get it. We've all been there. And sometimes you've just got to tune out and go, well, this is my reality. I've just got to create a safe space for my child until they calm down and they're done. And then you can leave.
Yeah. Well, you're the middle ground in that, right? Because you can see the two sides of the coin.
Yes.
And you are the choice of what coin you play, right? What side of the coin it lands on.
Correct.
Are you going to be the one that self-judges, or are you going to be the one who just be like, okay, I'm just going to actually lean into that supportive, nurturing environment and soothe my child?
Yeah. And look, it can be embarrassing because everyone looks at you, and it's normal to have those feelings, right? Like I took my daughter to a birthday party on Sunday, And the party ended and all the kids went and played outside. And my daughter's an outdoor girl, so she could be there all day and night. Everyone left. It was like an hour and a half later. She didn't want to leave. I gave her a 10-minute warning. I gave her everything. And then in the end, it was starting to get cloudy and cold. I said to her, right, I said, Miriam's time to go. And she didn't want to go. I thought, right, I said to her, I'm going to throw you over my shoulder and we're going to go. So I literally chased her, threw her over my shoulder, and she started giggling. So I thought, okay, this is a better outcome than what I expected. And these parents were sitting down and they laughed. And I said, the things you do, because obviously they had kids and I didn't care what they thought, but I thought the things you do, you got to do as a parent. And they go, oh, we're not laughing at you. We're laughing at the fact that we were just talking about that we had to do this last week. So don't always take on face value that people are laughing at you or people are, do you know what I mean? They might be laughing because they've been through the same thing, you know? And I was just lucky. My daughter started laughing and, you know, we had a laugh about it on the way I was still carrying her over my shoulder, Sean, to the car, you know.
I love that.
But,
yeah.
you know, it was, I like to use humor because humor sort of breaks the anger, the upsetness and all of this sort of thing. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. But you've got to find what works for you and your kids as well.
100%. And your truth is literally finding what works. Like more simply than saying get to your truth or find what's the truth. What works for you right now is your truth.
Exactly. And you just got to try different things. You got to be open to trying different things because when you find it and find a few different ways of what does work, it's going to help you and it's going to make your life easier as well.
Yeah. No, it's very wise, actually. Very, very wise. And thank you for sharing that. We're actually coming towards the end of our podcast actually today, Steph. But what I would really love to ask you and maybe just to reflect back because you've had a hell of a journey and been able to manage yourself pretty well, I would say, throughout the process. I can imagine that it's been up and down, sideways, twists and turns, everything, right?
Yep.
Like life happens to us, but then we have to realize that it's actually happening for us at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So looking back now, when your child was first born, and looking back at yourself, what are some of the things that you would share with yourself, knowing what you know now, given your experience that you've had?
The first thing I'd say, Sean, is don't judge yourself. No matter what you're doing, as long as you're doing your best, that's all you can do. Babies are made to cry constantly. You know, babies are made to want to cling to their mum because they've spent just under a year inside you and then they're coming into this world where they're not, you know, in that nice cushiony place anymore. So give yourself permission to say, it's okay, I will get through this. And as long as you're doing the best that you can, that's all you can do. And at the end of the day, let's break this down, Sean. You just got to keep the kid alive and, you know, you're fine. You know, they're going to cry. They're going to, you know, there's always going to be a reason for crying. And at the beginning, they always need to eat and sleep. That's how they grow, you know, and just ignore what society tells you. Because the one thing I noticed as well, Sean, is so I was quite private before I had my daughter. But what happens is when you have a child, it opens this imaginary door that everyone feels they have to throw their 2 cents worth in. So I say, ignore the noise, okay? Because that noise is not going to help you. Unless it's support, ignore the noise. Because I'm telling you, it's like the floodgates open where people think it's okay for them to give you their 2 cents worth. And like things like happened, like I mentioned earlier, oh no, your daughter should not be sleeping on just, that's not good, that's not going to end well, and all this sort of jazz. So you need to just tune out the noise. And it's hard. It's not easy. It's going to be very hard. But as long as you're doing what works for you and your child, that's all that matters. And if you have to lie to people and go like I did, yep, she eats, she sleeps, and she does number 2s, you know, as she should, that's what makes people zip their mouth. That's what I found sort of stops people from giving more advice. But if you ask a question Make sure you're asking someone that you can trust, not someone that's going to, say, oh, they shouldn't be doing this and they shouldn't be doing that. And people don't always realize what they're doing. So, you need to be aware of it, not them.
Yeah,
How's that,
that's
Sean?
words of wisdom. I really love that because through my experience of observing what my beautiful wife has gone through as well and seeing the child, it's really interesting because the child, they only have one way to express themselves really, and that's crying, right?
Crying.
Like
Yeah.
that's as simply put as it is. If the child's crying, it wants or needs something, and you have to listen in to what it is.
Exactly. But the reality, Sean, is when it gets what it needs, it stops.
Exactly.
Right? So it's just its own way of communicating until it can talk, and it won't talk, might not talk for a year, it might not talk for 2 years,
Yeah.
but you've got to be in tune with your child, because if you're in tune with your child, you're winning. No one else
Yeah.
needs to be in tune with your child except you as the mum. So that's why it's so important to build like a fort around yourself with who you're letting in to that fort, because it could be people that will break you, and you don't want that. You want to be able to stay strong and get the right. You want people that are going to say to you, you're doing your best and that's all you can do. You need that positive reinforcement, right? You don't want people going, oh, no, she shouldn't be doing this. Or, oh, no, you should be doing that. No child should be doing this or that. Every child is different. We say every child is different, but then we sort of measure it up against, a certain criteria. Work that one out, talk about a double-edged sword sort of thing. So,
Yeah, how qualified are they? What's their qualification?
Exactly.
What's their experience?
Their experience is still going to be different because their child is different, right? They're probably not going through the same thing. I've met 3 kids, 3 parents, Sean, in the 6 years of my daughter's life, who's had very similar attributes to my daughter. 3. So imagine that, 6 years, 3 kids. So everyone else that's felt the need to give me their 2 cents worth have no idea. Because when I spoke to those 3 kids, and this is a really important message for mums, just to to finish it up, because I know I'm talking too much now, is they understood. They understood that they always needed their mum to sleep next to them or on them. They understood. They said, I get it. I've been there. And some of the kids are still like that to a certain degree, of course, but they're the people that you want to be sharing the details with. It's not the people that are going to tell you, oh, no, try this or try that and blah, blah, blah. So that was a valuable lesson, because those 3 parents, Sean, made me realize, wow, there are other kids out there, and their response was very different to me. It was actually supportive. It was like, I get it. I know what that's like. So
yeah, finding your tribe, takes time.
It does.
And sometimes it's quick and sometimes it's not so quick. And that message you just relayed, thank you for expanding on it too, because it takes a lot of courage to just be open and honest with people. And that then leads to being able to realize, are they my tribe? Can I consider these people trustworthy enough to be, part of my family almost, right?
And not everyone needs to be, right, Sean? Not
That's
everyone
right.
needs to be. Like, I probably shouldn't be saying this, but there's like 2 or 3 mums in my daughter's kindy that I get along with it like a house on fire. The rest, I'm nice, I'm an acquaintance, and that's it. And I'm okay with that, because I know the good synergy I have with the other couple of mums. And that's what I'm focusing on, building that rapport and building that relationship, not just for myself, but for my daughter and her friends as well. I don't need the whole class to like me and, to, invite me to everything. I don't care. But I found 3 mums that are absolutely lovely. And, that's where I'm focusing my energy, because you want to find that good synergy between you and other parents.
Yeah, I agree. Well, Steph, thank you so much for sharing your awesome wisdom today with us. I think it's so insightful for many mums out there, and also dads that are possibly listening as well, and maybe even grandparents, because really it's an expansive show, and I really love that what you're doing in the business space is almost an expression of how much you care just for your family. I think that's probably one of the most wonderful things that I can see. So thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. Continue
Thank you for
doing
having
what
me,
you're doing.
Sean. Thank you so much for having me. I love the fact that we can sort of share our messages and, you know, be that that lighthouse for mums that, you know, it's not what society portrays it to be, and that's okay, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And for all the listeners and the viewers out there, please like, subscribe, and if you really love having Steph on today, please let us know. Let us know in the comment section. We'll make it happen again, and yeah, we'll delve into another topic so we can bring you what you really care for on your trip to wherever you're going. So yeah, thank you so much all, and we'll see you in the next episode.
See you later.
And that brings us to the end of today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us on this heartfelt journey. Just a reminder to please subscribe, tune in, and become part of our supportive community. Because mums, you're not alone, and the world really needs to know, how are you really, mum? See you next time. Bye for now.